Commissioner Coates,
Here.
Commissioner Laird,
Present and account.
hallelujah. Commissioner Clayson,
Here.
Commissioner North,
Here.
Chairman Milne.
Here.
What's that? Ooh, I don't know about all that. That might be too much work. Alrighty, good afternoon. Thanks for having me in. Just to touch base on the last few major things that got done last month, and we got all our backup generators tested, serviced, everything like that. Everything tested well. We have a small issue with a gas regulator at the morgue, but that's a fairly simple fix. Just need to pour a little more gas into that engine to get it running just a little smoother. Other than that, we have a small leak in a coil in a nursing unit, but coil's on its way. It'll be here, should be here on Monday, and as soon as that gets in, it'll be installed and have that unit back up and running. Yeah, other than that, I could go through that whole list. I'm sure you guys read it, so I was gonna give the floor to you if there was any questions on some of the other issues that are going around.
Any highlights that you really want to bring up to us or anything? Any place you're having problems? Anywhere you're having issues?
No major things. We had a little bit of a water leak in the jail last week, but we did get ARS in there, cleaned the wall up, mitigated everything we needed to do, kept the area off, things like that. So everything's cleaned up, and we'll be putting everything back together. This should be here, hopefully starting real soon.
Gary, just for the record, so everybody knows, that was not in an area that we had previously had work done.
Correct. It
So
was not part of that.
It was a new area.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions here? Succinct, and you have anything for us? Now's your chance.
No, I
Now
think,
you lost it.
yeah, nothing major, I mean, things we've already touched in the last couple months, and things that are just getting wrapped up are those 4 air handlers for the jail should be showing up, by the end of this month. So the contractor will be getting those in, and this time of year, we're just trying to finish up all our major projects, restock our shelves, get that inventory all squared away so that we're ready to rock and roll for the next fiscal.
All right.
Yeah.
No question. Surprise. You want a pen?
You can have mine.
All right. I think that's it.
All right.
Unless anybody has anything.
That's all.
Just
Thanks.
keep up the good work, will you?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Thank you,
everything
Brian.
you and your guys are doing.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Garrett, how much money should we be budgeting every year to put into a kind of capital reserve for some of these old buildings for when unforeseen items come up that are, 6+ figures?
Excellent question.
Thank you.
Would that be a rolling account, or would that be just
Something that we can build
that
up.
we're not going to use every year? It's just something that's going to build with
Well,
interest and build over time.
I don't know what future commissions are going to want to do, but if we're thinking ahead,
So with the study that we did, if you took and those were just those 5 buildings. And on an average in the 5-year plan, it seemed to get to anywhere from around 250 to 500 a year, just to get a lot of the old equipment updated and stay in that time frame of equipment lifestyle. And that's in the span of 20. So it changed every year for their 5-year plans to their 20-year plan, that they provided for me. So I think for me, it was more just prioritizing what are the major ones and what are the, how to prioritize that and stay in that same figure of dollar to keep getting things done, but also, be pertinent of what we bring in.
Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be useful to have a BOCC policy to establish that fund and then on how to deploy those monies. You know, it'd just be good for the commission to have, if it were to elect, for example, to allocate an amount from the interest off of the hospital funds, our investment, basically $100 million to say $250,000. And it'd be just a kind of an accounting or a bookkeeping entry over here. So it's segregated and future commissions might know how to utilize those funds over time.
Just a repair and maintenance nest egg, basically. Expenditures, yeah. Trish, we got anything like that set up that you know of at all yet? How much what would it take to set up something like that for you?
Well, you need to defer to your treasurer's office for that.
Let's see. Yes, sir.
It would just be, in my opinion, setting up an account. If you were to make it a restricted, I think we would need to follow that with a resolution per accounting standards for restricting those funds.
So more of a restriction or a resolution than a policy then?
Correct. That's my understanding. I can research it a little further if you'd like.
If you could, please.
Yep.
Tracy, can we put that as a line item in, like, in Garrett's budget as a restricted item? And basically, if the money is not used, then we can carry it over from year to year. We would have that available.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would advise against putting it in an expense account because that's going to be part of your initial budget request every year that is approved. You will certainly need an expense account to post it to, but sitting in a revenue account, general fund would be more appropriate, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you could talk to the treasurer about that a little bit and see how we need to do to move forward with that.
Yep, will do.
Thank you. Yes.
I totally agree with Mr. Nicolason. I thought we needed a fund such as that set up because of the aging out of all of these buildings. And then I noticed in the city's budget, they have that. They have a fund like that. I think I might have seen 5 million in that. So I don't know if you have any people you can contact over there in a similar position as you to find out how they've done that and how they've decided how much to be put in there based upon their own budgetary process, which is about 3 or 4 times the size of ours. But it's a very wise move to do that.
Okay. And I don't have an exact contact right off the top of my head, but I would be, I'm sure I can find one. So.
If you could start looking at that report and just kind of evaluate and try to figure out what she'll set up and then what may require through the years for either increase or at least just let it sit for the insurance or the interest.
Right. And just so we're aware, that would be for all 9 buildings, correct? Not just, yeah. Okay. Awesome. Won't complain.
Peter, any more good ideas?
I thought you could contact Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I thought you could contact the city manager, and reach out to her. She might have, kind of the administrative side, and if they do have a policy drafted or a resolution, at least it'll be helpful. Maybe we won't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm not familiar with that program, but it wouldn't surprise me if like Commissioner Laird said, if they do have one.
Okay, yep, nope. I suppose. You need to leave before I have more things.
Yeah, all right. That's all you gotta do.
Thank you. Mike,
Sis.
how are you today, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Mark was Nicholas's first agent.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I'll get started. Don't really have any new information for the Buffalo Creek project, still underway with the DEQ review. Herbst gravel pit there, working on getting that out to bid. Ingrid Miller is. Gray Reef, the flap grant, that program's still under review for build out. It does have a bridge on it to get redone. Haven't got any more new information on that one. The new shop building, still working on that RFP, almost have it finished. Squaw Creek Road, I've got the contract back from the contractor. I'll review it this afternoon. It'll be on your next meeting for award to get that project going. The Badwater Bridge, I have no more information on it yet from WIDOT. They're still working on design. The Gray Reef Road Bridge, which is a different bridge than the one under the flap grant, I got notice, and you probably got it last week too, that it's been derated to 4 tons. That is planned to be replaced under WIDOT, but I don't know if they're going to expedite that now or not. They've got issues with funding. We could come up with the funding, our match, but right now I have to post that at 4 tons, and they're sending me the placards to put up and everything. I haven't got them yet, but we have to have that done by the end of the month.
Will that affect anybody down that road?
Well, the lodge that's down there, that fishing lodge, you know, if they've got freight going in there for food and stuff like that, those trucks are gonna have to load differently to go in there, or they might have to unload them and put them on pickups. But I'm gonna talk to them.
Okay.
That, you know, the average public going in there wouldn't be too bad unless you got a motorhome, you know, that got down in there and wanted to cross, and they're definitely over 4 tons. So crazy event with the older bridges right now.
Yeah.
And it's not that we haven't got them on the list and they're being designed, it's just that they're finding more. Last winter being so dry, a lot of things have dried out and cracked, and worse than they would have. That's the only thing I can chalk some of this up to, is the dryness we've had. But other than the fact they're really old bridges. We're still working on more road acquisition. And then the Salt Creek Edgerton Bridge work started last Friday. Hope to have it done, the bypass done by this Friday. General maintenance of roads, I've listed the stuff we've been blading, and we start putting dirt in for the CNFR rodeo Monday. And then you'll be appointing a board member to the fire board at tonight's meeting, Mr. Harshman. Other than that,
Any questions for Mike? Go ahead.
Maybe I should have a sinking fund too for bridges.
No,
Guess what I wasn't gonna recommend? Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to hear Mike say Paphonic, board, no, Mike, on the road acquisition, we didn't have to go through the establishment of a private road for the East End, road, so thank you to legal and legal counsel for
Yeah.
getting that done. That saves everybody time and money. And so hopefully that can continue with other road establishments. But what are some of the top 2 or 3 that are next on the list?
Well, we've got a number of them, and I don't have that list in my head, but East End Road was a priority. We've got probably look at Goose Egg, and some of the ones that are going to come up under construction here in the near future, or reconstruction. And then I think there's like 32 of them altogether that we had listed out.
Wait a minute. I thought there were 24.
Well,
We're supposed to
like,
go in the other direction.
you may be right, I may be wrong. I thought it was 30 some, but
Okay.
we've knocked some of them out.
But we're gonna continue to
Keep
maybe
on.
try and get a couple done every year.
Keep on moving, as long as Ashley's willing.
Okay, thanks.
So-
any other questions?
All right.
I think you're good to go, Mike.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming down.
Just a minute.
Up.
I do think, I don't know how Mr. Nicolason feels at this point, but I do think there should be some sort of a fund that is built for some of these things you're talking about, because what we have to face is we're aging, everything is aging out in terms of our equipment and our buildings. And so to have a fund, and maybe the one he's suggesting would include what you're saying, I don't know if he had that in mind or not. He may want to add something there, but I think it's very prudent to consider these matters and have a fairly good, probably intellectual guess at how much you may need, say, over the next 10 years. And so that would certainly help us in our budget procedure. And then we would have funds that would be designated for these things. Like, never crossed my mind we'd have 3 elevators that needed to be replaced at the cost of about $400,000 apiece. So these are matters that we should really start thinking very seriously about, and how we're going to fund them and begin doing that.
Well, that's a good question. Road and bridge buildings aren't included in anything. It probably would make sense to put those under the expertise of Garrett, looking at all the units that sit on them, whether it's air conditioners or whatever. And if you're going to make that fund, it should include those buildings as well. And, as far as bridges go, we have road fund monies, and we've planned on taking care of these bridges, but obviously the one in Edgerton wasn't even targeted from any reports when that happened. So you could have that come up. We don't have that many more of them. We've got one in Natrona to take care of sooner or later. It's on the bridge replacement program, but it doesn't rank out high enough to get any action. So that could fail. But I think we're covered on those types of things. The buildings have always just been kind of budgeted in road and bridge, and they really haven't been analyzed. They're old buildings. They were purchased, used, and they all have systems in them that are probably outdated to some extent. But
That'd be a good side project for Garrett to.
I just talked about him. He was excited.
Standing. He looks like it. Don't throw that. No, that actually, that's a good point. And we need to be paying attention to the shops and whatnot, just like the rest of the buildings too. So, yeah, if you could get on that too. Anything else for us?
Now am I done?
Questions, concerns, anything we can help you with?
Yeah. Just looking forward to getting the CNFR rodeo over with. And,
Well, it's gotta start first.
yeah. We're there after it ends too.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Eileen.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Been a while since I've seen you.
Yes, it has. So thanks for having me. Any questions right off the bat? If not, I'll just highlight a few things from my report. Okay. We are working on revamping our cybersecurity awareness program, shifting it from more of a compliance-based activity to more supportive and engaging. So our cybersecurity analyst is working on building out that program. I think it will be exciting. Something to note from the report is that in the last 30 days, we've had 72,541 inbound emails. 72,541 in 30 days, inbound emails. That's not outbound, that's inbound. And of 51,000 of those were legitimate, so that leaves us 21,153 that could be potentially threatening or just plain spam and require review. So one of the things that I'm working on also with our cybersecurity analyst is addressing email. How we're handling email, how employees use email, best practices for email, reviewing email, etc. So as we work on the employee handbook, that will be one of the first policies that we start to develop for improving the IT section of the employee handbook, along with passwords and any of the other policies that directly affect our cyber insurance. The other thing that's security related is we've been working on, and it's not in my report, is resiliency. I met with the city of Casper recently with our infrastructure team, and we're discussing how to stand up and test disaster recovery scenarios. So should the worst case happen here in our campus, the city is out, we're out, and we have to continuity of government. We've been discussing manners in which we can provide services pretty quickly. And so those have been really good and helpful conversations, I think, positive conversations. The city does provide services to the county, GIS in particular, and most importantly, Spillman, our computer-aided dispatch for public safety. So we've been working with them on that. We both use the same services for disaster recovery, so that makes it even more helpful. So we're on track with that. And our internet service providers, we're working with both of them to ensure that we have failover with internet access going forward, because I think what we're also going to start seeing in legislation is a couple enrolled acts regarding our motor vehicles, motor vehicle licensing and registration and titling. With these enrolled acts, now that Wyoming Department of Transportation is responsible for building those systems, those software systems, how they'll be accessed most likely is going to be through some sort of internet connection. I've had a few conversations with folks at YDOT to talk about what that means. They're interested in engaging with Natrona County specifically to work on the motor vehicle registration program. Our developer here has done a great job. We are the only county that has an in-house program, and their past experience with working with them has been so positive, and our data is so, I'm just going to say stellar compared to some of the other counties that they have asked to have him join the team on the development of this program. So I'm very excited and proud to be able to do that with the Department of Transportation. So that's a nice thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's coming up pretty quickly within the next couple of years. So we'll see how that goes. The other things that have been going on, I've hired a business application specialist. He's getting up to speed very quickly. He'll be working with me and the departments and just supporting them with their software systems. It's kind of a slow start, but he's only been here a few weeks. So we'll start getting out into the departments and having him meet with them and talk about what their needs are for their business operations. We launched our Natrona County Employee Hub. This is just a communication hub. So we have basic communication from the county, benefits information, open enrollment information, IT information, and hopefully coming soon will be HR information also. So we've launched that just yesterday. We've already gotten a little bit of feedback, which has been positive. And routine day-to-day support, we had almost 1,200 work orders since the beginning of the year. That sums it up.
I have a question,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Do we have Starlink?
We do for the Casper Mountain Trail Center. That's what we use for internet access up there. And then I believe emergency management also utilizes Starlink.
Is there a reason we don't use it more down here, or?
No, not necessarily. I think it's a great service. We've talked about having it at our DR site out at Natrona County Fire District, but we opted at the time, the Mountain West offered a more viable solution, but it's certainly something that would,
Is it costly?
no, not really. Mm-mm.
It's less than some other,
Can be,
yeah.
yeah. It's a
Is
good
it
service.
something worthwhile for you to decide whether we should use it globally within our organization?
I don't know. I think more for areas where there's not a lot of service, but I think sticking with our fiber connections for our internet service right now is probably more prudent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Cybersecurity insurance,
Yes,
how's that going?
I think it's going well. We meet all the minimum requirements. As far as the premiums, I'm unaware of what they cost. That's handled out of the risk management office. But we're maintaining the requirements necessary to achieve the highest tier
Good.
of support. So we're going to continue to do that. And I don't want it to be just checking a box. Okay, every year we say, yeah, we do that, but now let's go back and audit ourselves, review to make sure that we're doing exactly everything that is expected, and then write the procedures or policies behind that.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
know a couple of years ago, we were pretty concerned about where it was going and
We were
availability and all that stuff. Is
Uh,
it still, is it better?
unknown. I'm sorry, I don't know the premium cost. That's
You talked to
Danielle's question. But I think it's part of our property or liability. I can't remember which.
All right.
Okay, anything
Any other
else?
questions?
Thank you.
We're just cooking right along here.
Yes, very good.
And we're slowing down.
Look at you guys giving us lots of time.
You got all sorts of time now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for the Planning Department, Code Enforcement, continue to get those requests for cleanup that I'm going to continue to ask for and throw out there. I'm sure you guys get those questions as well for the dumpsters that we've discussed a couple times. Planning and Zoning Commission we have next week. So we have we'll be revisiting a major subdivision application in the Allendale area. We'll also be reviewing our first application for our outbuildings text amendment, which is just 2 dry cabins on the mountain. So that'll be coming to you guys in August, I believe it is, maybe July. And then we have another conditional use permit as well. I did send the very marked up 2013 subdivision regulations for that rewrite. I sent that to you guys, I think it was last week or the week before. So that's going to be quite the undertaking, but it's a start. So, and then industrial parks, Ashley and I would like to speak with you in a couple weeks. We sent a memo out just right before this meeting about kind of discussing them and direction from you guys on what you want for that and what that might look like for Natrona County. So that discussion will be in a couple weeks. And Brad has some building permit.
Good afternoon. So I'll just hit everything's going really good in the building department. We haven't had any real hiccups. Mesa's coming down to the wire, so we're gonna be spending a lot of time over there this next week or so. That's gonna be taking up a lot of our time for final inspections at that facility. Their deadline's coming up real quick. Love's Travel Stop's going pretty good. We've been over there quite a few times for the foundation. They're still working on the foundation aspects of that project. I was informed by Jake over at the airport, the air traffic control tower has received its funding and it is a go. We haven't seen any permit come through yet. I think it's going out to bid here shortly, and then they'll assign a contractor to it, and then they'll probably start the permitting process at that time. So it may be a couple months before we see that. The Veterans Museum finished up. They're still waiting on an air handler that got put on back order, but all the other aspects of it was completed and they're open again. That turned out really nice. They had a ribbon cutting on it a couple weeks ago. Any questions or concerns about any of the projects going on? We've got quite a few going on. Lots of residential stuff going on. We're staying pretty busy.
They moving pretty fast up at Love's. Well, I mean, I know they had a lot of
They've had some-
foundation issues, or
They've had some moisture problems out there on
Yes.
that property. I don't know what their time frame is. It does seem like they had a rather slow start. From what they told me when they were going to get started, it was delayed quite a bit. So I think they have a late start, and then with the moisture problems in that ground out there has really delayed them a little bit. But they're chugging away, so I think they're gonna probably stay on there at the right timeline, I hope.
good. Well, change orders.
Exactly. Unforeseen problems, that's always a challenge on these bigger projects.
When do you think they'll start putting in the applications and for permits and different things for the airport tower, Peter?
Mr. Chairman, the plans for, we had our meeting last week, and the plans for the tower are at 100%. So Glenn kind of went over the time frame for that, and my recollection is that sometime in July, they're hoping to have everything, bids and everything, and that it's in August that the permitting would start. But I think that we could follow up with Glenn to get more specifics, but I was really surprised at how accelerated it sounds like it's gonna be. And by the way, Glenn did indicate that they would definitely be coming to the county this fiscal year and probably this calendar year for the county commitment for the funding of our share, that $2 million. So it looks like they want to be done by sometime in or before June of next year.
Where's the proposed site for that?
The proposed site, it's basically behind the current tower.
Oh, okay.
So it's really close. Yeah. I don't have my directions out there as well as I do on the other side of the county, so, yeah.
Kind of alongside that roadway then.
It's gonna be that way.
No,
See the,
That way they can see the seats and all that kind of stuff as well as everything else. So yeah.
all righty. Any questions for Sabrina?
How many inquiries have you gotten on data centers and county's ability to manage those through zoning?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kota, actually not many at all. We initially, I think when Prometheus had their public meeting up at Casper College, which we were not aware of until after the fact, we did get a few phone calls because the rumor was there was an application in. We've never received an application. We've met with them once. We are in contact with them via email. But we have been in contact with multiple other counties, particularly Laramie County, but other counties as well for data centers, industrial parks, and that type.
And do you have any industrial style projects that have been submitted to you for any kind of review?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Sabrina, with respect to county cleanup days, you know, our constituents include City of Casper folks. And so a good portion of our constituents get that water bill from the, you know, their water sewer bill, and that perk. I'd like to see us try to negotiate a deal with the county for, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. A negotiated deal for the city, or with the city for the county residents outside the City of Casper boundaries, so that they get the 2 free per month for X dollars. So they still have to pay something because some part of that water sewer bill is why they get that freebie. So, you know, if we could have at least as good of a deal as the city residents do, I think that'd be helpful. It's something that I personally would appreciate because I have to give them a credit card. And, you know, so I don't know if that's something that you could look into or somebody else with the county or one of us would look into, but I think it would be a real service to those residents of the county.
We can definitely ask that question.
You want to do that? Since you keep bringing it up time and time again.
Well, I'm gonna still. And since we have some time. Just kidding.
You're out of what?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I think Sabrina, you're aware that Commerce County had to rescind their data center resolution, you know, the industrial business park resolution, because they don't have zoning over there. And I think being on the front end of this rather than reactive would be a good idea. Because I think that it's a really attractive thing for industrial developers to bypass the time and money that the Industrial Siting Act and the Industrial Siting Council process is. So, yeah, at the same time, you know, I don't think we want developers to have a free pass at all those important things that the Industrial Siting Act protects the citizens from and against. So it's good that you've been in touch with Laramie County and that you've probably seen the resolution of Commerce County before they rescinded it. That kind of had the public notice and the hearings, and this type of information is required to be provided so that the public then can know and the county can know what's to be expected. So keep that up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, so we're also in contact with Converse County, since we're still under the impression it's going in both counties. It seems a little difficult, because what if one county says yes and one says no? I don't know what that looks like to them. But also we were in touch with ISD too, with Jenny. I've spoken with her, I've got some information from her, so it's also my understanding that if it were to bypass the Industrial Siting Council, it does not bypass the regulations per state statute, so those are still there, they still don't have to go through those motions, so. And those are a lot of things we're learning along the way and trying to keep ahead as much as we possibly can, so.
Anything else, Sabrina?
Just a comment, I have a lot of people asking me what a data center is. So I had a long talk with a couple people from Cheyenne that have actually worked for data centers and the state, and they're two really very fine lawyers. But it boils down to a really simple answer, because this is the question they ask me. Do you watch Netflix? I say, yeah. It comes from a data center. And that's where we left it for the evening.
Anything for Brad? Didn't want to leave you out, man.
He escaped once again.
All right. Well, thank you. No jokes this time, huh?
I'll see you in an hour.
Oh, okay. Afternoon, Daniel. How you doing?
Hello. All right. The majority of my update will focus on benefits, but we'll get a couple of other items out of the way first. The Policy Review Committee will be meeting tomorrow on Chapter 3. We are on schedule with that schedule going forward. We had 3 new hires yesterday. We had 2 seasonal park employees and 1 deputy assessor that attended orientation. And then we also have 2 deputy attorney applicants, and we will be interviewing one of them on Thursday afternoon. I haven't had a chance to meet with the county attorney yet on the other one. It just came in hot off the press, not even 24 hours ago. So we need to look at that one as well. Okay, jumping into health insurance. We need to ratify a vote with the health insurance stop loss renewal. So I was able to speak with 4 of you regarding the stop loss renewal and going with the cheapest quote with no lasers at 25.9%. Just for the record, the other 4 quotes were, well, with the same company, they suggested or gave us another option of 27.6% increase, with 4 of the claims being lasered, meaning that risk attachment point would be higher than the $125,000 stop loss threshold. So it was cheaper to go with the 25.9%. The other 3 quotes were 39.7%, 42.8%, and 59.6%.
All right. So with your straw poll, we need to ratify that. And now would be a good time. Somebody make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we ratify the straw poll for the stopgap insurance
Which option?
for the option.
25.9%.
Yeah, the cheaper of the group. So the 25 point.
Okay, thank you. Got a motion? Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just for discussion, I had asked Danielle for a file note memo that spelled this out, and you were going to work on that. Has that been put together?
Yes, it is.
I didn't see it in my emails.
I may not have sent it to everybody. That may be my fault. I will make sure it's sent to everybody.
Okay, as long as we have that in our file, then we'll know why we did what we did, and that's
Yeah.
it. Thanks.
Thanks. Oh, that's a good catch. Okay, with that in mind, any further discussion? Motion and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. It's ratified.
Okay. Chairman, we also met on Friday, and you had discussed wanting me to bring forward the amount in the benefits trust account. The amount in that account as of Friday, May 29th, was $2,533,181. Our brokers did a quick actuarial calculation, and what we should have in that account is 3.5 million because we are a self-funded account. I can say that I spoke with the clerk, and the clerk has said that she still has a budget transfer to complete as well, and I'm not quite sure of that amount.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not quite sure of the amount yet either, so it'll be approximately towards $1 million, I would speculate. Mr. Chairman, that money has already been budgeted and it will come out of the hospital fund interest. We discussed it and approved it this current fiscal.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Laird, with that being said, we are at 2.53 million. We need 3.5 million. With the $1 million transfer, we'll have the amount in the trust that we need to continue forward with the self-funded plan sitting okay for a run out. Meaning, if anything ever happened with our health insurance, we would have a 45 to 60 day run out with the health insurance before we went on to a different option. So that is fine.
Go ahead.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
I think I understand, when you say we need 3.5, are we contractually required to have that for a self-funded plan?
No, we are not.
It's just an advisory thing in case the train really goes off the track in terms of claims and, or maybe it's not related to claims.
No, it is absolutely related to claims. You are correct.
So if everything, the worst, knock on wood, the worst happens, then we'll be able to, retain, I guess, solvency under that program.
That is correct.
Any other questions? Tracy, what we talked about the other day, do we still need to possibly do that or those funds or?
Mr. Chairman, I think that would be a discussion we will have during FY27 budget
Okay,
discussion.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, to wrap up the benefits, I wanted to let the commissioners know that the executive committee is working diligently with our brokers to determine the amount of increase needed and the amount of burden for each the county and the employees to assume with the high cost of the health plan at this time. What I can say is now that we have the high deductible health plan, after speaking with our brokers and really diving into the numbers, we have a lot of employees who are overinsured. Real quick, we have 520 claimants paying $1,500 or less per year. That $1,500 is our deductible. 211 of those claimants spend less than $100 per year on their health insurance claims, meaning they're spending money on the higher premium for the PPO plan when it would be more beneficial for them to move to the high deductible health plan. So we will have more information coming forward with that, hopefully by the end of the month.
I'll just have a question there, Mr. Chairman.
Uh-huh.
So, that's only because they haven't had cancer hit them or something like that, right?
Yes, you're correct.
Older people get, probably a high deductible isn't a very wise idea.
Yeah, it really depends on your health situation. With that being said, these 211 claimants spend less than $100 a year on their health insurance. They do their wellness, but no other claims.
They're healthy people. But my point is, we have people who stay here for a long time, and I would hate to see anybody have any kind of problem, but if they did, and I don't know what percentage of deductible you're talking about.
So, Commissioner Laird, what I can say is employees are able to switch back to the PPO plan during open enrollment. So whatever they have going on, if they end up with a diagnosis that costs more and they're on the high deductible health plan during open enrollment, they can choose to go back to the PPO plan if they so wish.
Can they
And
do
that's
that
yearly.
anytime during the year?
Nope, that's once per year.
So if they got hit with it, they were on the high deductible and they had a $150,000 medical bill, it wouldn't be a good thing for them. I think they need to understand that.
Commissioner Laird, I do think that it's an education issue, and I think that one thing I can say when you gave the example of a $150,000 claim. Well, there's still limits with the high deductible health plan. There's still out of pocket limits. And I don't have them in front of me, but if I remember correctly, an employee would not pay more than $4,000 out of pocket, even if they had a $150,000 claim on the high deductible health plan. So there's still some insurance. They just take more of the initial risk, the upfront risk.
Thank you for your explanation.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions on that?
That's all I had for today.
Generally have always known over the course of my long career as a lawyer is that the insurance companies take care of themselves first.
Speaking of insurance, and since I asked Eileen, how's that going? The premiums increasing, or what are we seeing on that front?
So I just pulled that up. Just one second. All right, Chairman. I actually presented this during my budget presentation. If you remember correctly, I presented that the county's at a level 4, the library's at a level 4, and the health department's at a level 4. We have the airport at a level 1 and the fair at a level 1. The county's premium is $17,449. It's about stagnant from where it was last year. We didn't see a huge increase at all with cyber coverage, so that was good news.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Danielle?
Okay.
Y'all are going too fast.
Do we want to be at level 1 or are we happy with the level?
You want level 4. Level 4 is the highest.
Since the fair, airport are also part of the county, how could we get them to level 4?
Well, I think that's a question for IT. They all handle their own outside IT. They outsource their IT. Eileen's department does not help them, I don't believe. Do you help the fair? No. No, they do not service the fair or the airport.
I'm interrupting, but how much money would that save if the airport and the fair were level 4?
Quite a bit.
Like
So in order to be,
$1 million or like,
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can certainly bring them back.
well, it's worth a conversation. And since I'm airport board liaison, I can be a part of that conversation, but our fair board liaison, we can at least start asking the questions, whether it's Eileen related or Danielle related. So.
Commissioner Nicolason, it's kind of twofold, both with risk management and IT, but I think what Eileen would say is you want level 4 because you have those safeguards in place. And being a level 4 is the highest level with the insurance. Plus putting those safeguards in place with your training and all of the security and the data being secured in the firewalls. You really want a level 4. So I can bring you more information on the actual cost of it
How come it isn't that way now?
because they do not have their safeguards in place. They do not meet the minimum requirements for a level 4. I can say that the health department started with a level 1 2 years ago, and they are up to a level 4 now.
Ah, shh. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Next portion, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chairman, switching directions. So I just wanted to give you a brief synopsis. In the first quarter of 25, the board was presented with a recommendation to move forward with a third-party compensation study. I'm not sure that we need to repeat the previous market studies and their results from 2007 and most recently 2022 and 2024, but I briefly want to explain why the recommendation was made and where we stand today. A study of this kind, it's more than just an HR project. For the Board of County Commissioners, what it means is a governance tool. It provides a consistent data-driven foundation for budgeting, reduces ad hoc pay decisions, and gives the board a clear basis for future salary adjustments and long-term financial planning. Just as importantly, it strengthens operational stability by ensuring departments are staffed with the right talent, compensated appropriately, and supported by a structure that promotes continuity, predictable service delivery, and reduced turnover. If you remember correctly, our turnover rate was at 24.4% last year. This effort wasn't only limited to compensation, we also included a classification study, which is essential to local government. Accurate job classifications create the structure that supports internal equity, external competitiveness, legal compliance, and long-term system stability. Over the past several months, the committee completed the foundational work required for the study. Each position has been correctly classified based off of the work actually being completed and ensuring the pay grade matches the work's value. I think all department heads and electeds will agree that this study is essential because it gives an objective foundation for pay decisions, helps us stay competitive for talent, and ensures our employees are classified and compensated fairly and consistently. You should have the final report from Baker Tilly in your packet, and we have Sarah online from Baker Tilly, who will present her closing remarks on the study and the report.
And we have them, or do we have all the technical bugs worked out? Can you hear us, and can we hear you?
Not so far.
They're both on mute. Are we on mute?
I have a question for Danielle.
Go ahead.
So when they do this study, and I'm sure they'll answer this, do they take into account our monetary stability here?
No, they do not.
See, that's a very vital element that we're dealing with right
You
now.
all hear me?
Yep.
Well, that's a start. I can I can speak. You guys can hear me all right. I can't hear you. I can see you on I'm following along with the YouTube. So it's a bit of two videos. I'll see if I'm able to catch up when we have questions. Should I go ahead and get started?
Give it 1 minute, please. See if we can't get going. Danielle, I appreciate you getting that 5-year mock-up to us. Was there anything you wanted to point out on that to us, or any comments or anything? I'm sure everybody looked at it.
I don't think so, Chairman. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I do appreciate you asking the question of what it would look like 5 years from now, and each year what it would take to sustain that option 2 of the study. So.
Well, this will get us back on schedule here.
Well, while they're doing that, Mr. Chairman, Danielle, of course, the commissioners have to, whatever they do with money here, they have to take into account of how much money we have. And so if we have an accounting from these people that give us this global idea, would sure like something referenced based upon our income and how much money we have had in the past to budget, because this is a big deal. It's already been a big deal. As I've said to our elected officials, these raises that they requested were fine if you have the money. And so all of it boils down to, these are all nice things that they say, but do we have the money? And I guess that's what we'll deal with. but I think it's something the public should understand, and the people involved should all understand. It's, you know, how fat or how thin our wallet is. You understand that better than anybody, probably.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
And with that, ladies, thank you for joining us, even if it's online. We do appreciate your time and coming for us. Show is your guys and Danielle's.
Well, good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, County Leadership. Thank you so much for the opportunity, again, to be able to speak on our Natrona County's classification and compensation study on behalf of Baker Tilly. My name is Sarah Town. I'm the Senior Manager with our classification and compensation team. And I just want to begin by recognizing and thanking County leadership, human resources staff, department heads, supervisors, even employees who contributed through this process. Studies like this are really only successful when organizations are willing to invest the time and provide honest feedback and actively participate in the evaluation process. And Natrona County did exactly that. This study does not occur in a vacuum. It builds upon years of work by county leadership and previous boards that have sought to improve the compensation competitiveness and address workforce challenges over time. And the purpose of this study was straightforward, but really important. The county wanted to evaluate whether its classification and compensation system remains fair, it's competitive, it's sustainable, and it's aligned with today's labor market. And the goal was not simply to adjust pay ranges. The goal was really to build a compensation system that supports recruitment, retention, internal equity, career growth, transparency, and really long-term organizational success. So over the past several months, Baker Tilly has partnered closely with county leadership and department heads through a 5-phase process to ensure that every recommendation presented today is supported by data, validated with our stakeholder input, and grounded in compensation best practices. So I had already previously presented on the 5-phase process, but I'll just quickly touch on what those 5 phases were. The first phase is project initiation, really getting into establishing our working relationship with county leadership, discuss challenges through the existing compensation system, and identify priorities for the future. Department directors and leadership participated in our planning meetings and communication sessions to ensure that everybody understood the purpose of the study and had an opportunity to contribute throughout the process. A very large data collection effort underwent where we're looking at existing job descriptions, organizational charts, pay structures, employee census data, and other documentation to understand how work is organized and compensated throughout the county. Using those existing job descriptions, we go into phase 2, where we really understood the work performed. We're evaluating positions and job descriptions and using Baker Tilly's SAFE methodology to conduct job evaluation. It's specifically designed for public sector organizations, and if adopted, it's what the county will use moving forward to understand internal equity. It's measuring all positions off of a consistent framework. We're using the same 9 compensable factors of education, experience, complexity of the job, independence, supervision, impact of actions, working conditions, all same factors to be able to evaluate the positions. And importantly, this process is evaluating the position itself, not the individual employee occupying the position. It provides the foundation for understanding relative value of work across Natrona County. And so being able to create that objective framework for making classification and compensation decisions, it's really the framework and the backbone of our entire process. While we were doing that, we were also then doing the 3rd phase, which was the market assessment. Internal equity is only one part of the equation. Organizations also need to understand how they compare externally if you want to attract and retain talent. So working with county leadership, we identified those 10 public peer organizations along with 3 published salary sources. We collected and analyzed market data for 106 benchmark positions, representing more than 90% of the county's workforce. We adjusted the data as needed to account for things like work schedule, labor market conditions, and geographic cost of labor. We restrict our quality standards, requiring at least a 75% overlap in duties and responsibilities to be able to calculate market values. And the results were really informative. We were able to establish market values for 92% of the benchmark positions. Overall, Natrona County was competitive at the minimum of its pay ranges, averaging about 1.6% above market. However, we found increasing separation from the market at the midpoint and maximum of the pay structure. On average, the county's pay ranges at the midpoints were 6% below market at the pay, and then at the pay ranges at the maximum were about 10% below market. And those findings became a key input for our study throughout the next phase of the process. Using those two big bodies of data, we went into phase 4, where we learned everything from position review and market assessment. The recommendations before you were not driven solely by market data, and they were not driven solely by internal job evaluation. Instead, they were developed by balancing both of these factors. One of the county's objectives throughout this process was positioning Natrona County to be an employer of choice in Wyoming's public sector labor market. We heard that again and again, wanting to be an employer of choice. And so as we developed and modernized the county's compensation structure, we wanted to provide an analysis that was able to simplify administration, improve transparency, and create clearer career progression opportunities. The current general pay structure, which isn't really a pay structure, is more than 64 grades and inconsistent with the midpoints and varying range spreads. And so in contrast, the proposed general pay plan consolidates the structure into 26 consistent grade relationships. It has consistent step progression and it's market aligned. We also developed a separate sheriff's office sworn pay structure that preserves rank distinctions while making sure that they're competitive across the law enforcement labor market. We then assign the positions to the proposed grades using a combination of the SAFE results, the market values, and we run everything through a regression analysis. Most importantly, department heads and county leadership were involved in the review of the positions at this phase. In that review process, their feedback really helped validate the positions' relationships, organizational structure, and practical implementation considerations. It's actually one of our most successful engagements with county leadership to date in our history. The fifth and final phase is really project completion and implementation planning. The study doesn't just end with a new pay plan. Long-term success really depends on how the county maintains and administers the system moving forward. And for that reason, we developed multiple implementation scenarios. We looked at ongoing maintenance recommendations, and we provided tools that allow the county to sustain the system in the future, rather than requiring another major redesign in the near future. And so in addition to the pay recommendations, the county has several important additional deliverables. We did a comprehensive benefits analysis comparing Natrona County's benefits for pay practices, retirement programs, health insurance, even leave programs. And the findings of that county's benefits package, they indicate that the county's competitive overall, though it's generally consistent with the market and not a significant differentiator by itself in terms of recruitment or retention efforts. Next, we also developed career ladders, which is really helpful and important for providing employees with a clear understanding of advancement opportunities. And we also prepared a compensation administration looking at policies and procedures that really help establish a consistent practices for maintaining the pay structure. How you should be conducting future market studies, how you administer classifications, how you evaluate reclassification requests, and even ensuring ongoing equity and transparency throughout the organization. Finally, we worked with the county to develop a formal compensation philosophy statement, something that never existed before. It clearly articulates the principles guiding the compensation decisions, and it emphasizes market competitiveness, internal equity, all of the components that we use to design and create your pay structures. I'll end with studies like this are ultimately more about pay grades and salary ranges. A well-designed salary structure is ultimately a governance tool, just like Danielle said. It provides a framework for how compensation decisions are made today and how they will be maintained consistently into the future. When compensation decisions are supportive with an objective evaluation and clear market data and supported by great policies, then organizations are better equipped to recruit qualified employees, retain your experienced staff, manage labor market costs responsibly, and make compensation decisions with confidence and transparency. So the recommendations before you really reflect a deliberate data-driven process that balances internal equity and that external competitiveness. But we were also very aware of your fiscal responsibility. At its core, this study is not simply about adjusting pay ranges. It's about ensuring that you have a system and a framework in place that has workforce capacity, you have organizational stability, and talent necessary to continue delivering the high quality services to the community. So thank you so much for the opportunity to partner with Natrona County on this important project. I'm happy to work through and talk through the implementation scenarios as we've outlined them from a high level philosophy perspective, as well as then in your packet, you see the financial costs associated with those. So look forward to discussing the results and answering any questions you may have.
Does anybody have questions?
So one of my questions is on the peer organizations. Some of these, at least from my point of view, are not apples to apples for what Natrona County experiences. You know, with the sheriff's office in particular, city policing is much different than what deputies experience. So I guess I'd like to hear a little bit about how that factors in on the law enforcement side of things. And then just generally, because Natrona County is unique in the fact that it has so many layers with different municipalities and how they interact, how some of those factors apply to some of these peer organizations that don't have that experience.
Sure. Happy to discuss one, how the 10 public peer organizations came to be included in the study. This was never Baker Tilly coming in and saying, these are your 10 comparator agencies. We actually started this process by asking department heads, who should we be comparing the county to? When we're understanding and getting a sense of your peer organization or who you're benchmarking yourself after, we're looking at making sure that organizations are really, they look like you and work like you. They're going to be similar in size, similar in scope, similar in operations. But we also liken that the best peer organizations is that understanding of movement of employees within the market space. So who you're gaining talent from and who you may be losing talent to. You want to be able to include those as comparator agencies. That's why we included, in this case, some of the municipalities, even the college, even the state, as well as the school district, because you may be experiencing movement of employees within the market space. We understand that not every position is going to be represented in these peer organizations. They may look a little different in terms of their structure or what they're doing. But as we're evaluating the positions, we're really using those job descriptions as our basis. So the job descriptions are going to explain the duties and responsibilities for each of the positions. We're comparing those to the job descriptions of these peer agencies, and we're looking for that 75% overlap. So even if another agency calls it a technician and you call it a coordinator, the work is really fundamentally the same. That's what we're looking at for that quality match. In the case of law enforcement, when we're comparing for law enforcement, we're not necessarily looking at things like call volume or the types of calls that they're going on. It's really, again, comes down to the duties and responsibilities. What are they required to do in that role, and how does it compare with other agencies? Like for some of these law enforcement agencies, you may be losing talent to those municipalities. We want to include them as benchmarks in the market study. Does that help answer your question?
It does. Yeah, it more or less kind of confirms, I guess, a concern of mine that we're comparing Word documents instead of the actual tasks and the physical experiences among peer agencies. And again, that might just be my personal perspective on it, but I do appreciate the work you put into it.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? So going through everything, and we had sort of had this discussion a little bit already. Where just, and Danielle, if you want to jump in, or whoever, where does merit, where does the Rockstar fit into this program?
Chairman Milne, this has nothing to do with merit. This is just base salary and keeping us competitive with the market.
So how does Jim or the sheriff, they've got the Rockstar, how they move that person along once this is established?
Well, I think we have career ladders, as Sarah mentioned, and when you have that rock star person who is moving up the ladder, as I guess they would say, and they're getting those certifications and they're getting the education and they're doing everything they need to do, they can apply for a promotion and move up the ladder that way.
I could also speak to a little bit of this. So as we developed and designed the pay structure, so again, going from what you have right now, which is really a collection of pay ranges, to a more traditional pay structure, this is designed to be the foundation from which then all other pay or performance decisions are determined. So this provides you with that foundation for being able to understand how employees enter into this compensation plan, what does step one represent as somebody just starting out in the role, and how they move through this step structure. Some of that is going to be a function of your pay policies and practices that are enacted after this is adopted, understanding that each one of these steps represents a year of experience in the role. Oftentimes, organizations will come and layer then merit or performance component as part of that step discussion. So even employees are then moving through that step system really based off of performance, based off of merit, doing a really great job. So if you're, even though you've only been in the role for maybe a year, but you're performing as a 3-year law enforcement deputy, then you can have that opportunity to move through the pay structure differently. That's really going to be the policies that are enacted coupled with this overall structure. But the structure is, again, that foundation. All other compensation decisions are designed to kind of work in conjunction with the structure.
Okay, I have a question. Go ahead.
Danielle, if we adopt this, I don't want to be, we have a rock star. I don't even want to hear the argument that it isn't part of our pay structure. If we have a rock star and we don't pay them rock star money, they leave, is what I believe. So now, if we adopt this, are we saying that this is binding on us and future commissions to pay according to this procedure, and then if there's a rock star, they're out of luck, she's out of luck?
Commissioner Laird, I don't think you're ever officially binded with this by any means. You can always change the policy and the pay structure, and that's what we've done in the past. But the thing is we never had a solidified structure. This is providing us with a structure and classification so that we can set the basis to move forward. Chairman Milne asked earlier if I had any additional thoughts on the 5-year progression to sustain this. Well, along with that, actually, I do have a couple of thoughts, and one of them being it's a fiscally responsible structure because now you know what it will cost you over the next 5 years. What we have done in the past in 2021 and 2022 is here's $1 million, try to get everybody within market. And then in 2024, what do we need to do to give everybody an increase? And where should we put the scales? So we ended up creating 14 scales. We suggested a 2% increase between each grade, and we ended up doing 1.5% with the BOCC's thoughts. So, I mean, you're never fully binded, and you could always go back and change it. With that being said, we still need to get a structure in place. We don't have a structure. We need a starting point.
So either way, let's say we decided we wanted to give our employees a 3% raise. Can we do that?
You could always do a cost of living or a cost of labor adjustment within those scales, on top of doing the actual scale adjustment. Yes, you could do that.
You know, whether we have the money to do it?
Couldn't tell you, Commissioner Laird.
See, that's one of my issues here.
That's why you make the big bucks, man.
Yeah, I understand that it's us, but I think that you have these studies that give you a kind of shiny approach, but yet it doesn't solve the problem that we face every year. And I'm not criticizing the study. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just taking a look at that to see what I can do for my employees and what the other commissioners would agree to. And so far, I don't feel like we have the knowledge to do that yet. I know we're getting ready to do something, but what is another question. And we've already gone through phase one of this. And so I'm not sure this is a scientific process. I think this is a process of, you know, if you get $1 a week from your dad as an allowance, and 1 week he has the money, you don't get the money. And if 1 week he's hit it big, he might give you $5. And so we now how many employees do we have total?
Full-time employees, including the fair and library, I believe we were at 347.
That's what it shows.
347. So what I would like to see and make sure we happen is that we're fair to every single one of those employees. And I include the elected officials in that. There's a sense of fairness here, and there's always this liquid money problem. But for some reason, I'm just, it's a confusing thing. Shouldn't be confusing to be fair to our employees.
Commissioner Coates, you had a question?
Yeah, so Danielle, so the commission has a range of employees under itself, and then the other electeds have employees that are their own. So, understanding that, you know, this to some extent is something for the commission to adopt, which is basically the cost allocation of this stuff. You know, what guidance would you have for this commission to have the other electeds continue down this pay scale? The sheriff's office already has a step in grade, so we already have something there that looks different than in other parts of the county. So, you know, this would be really unfortunate to go down and say, okay, we're going to adopt this pay structure, and then in a year or two or 4 years, we get some new people in, and then they just say, yeah, I don't like this, I'm doing my own thing again. So, I mean, the intention on this is fantastic, and I think you sold it very well. That's just my only fear on this, is that we need to have continuity, and if this commission is being asked to put some form of continuity in, you know, I guess what's your guidance direction for us?
Well, Commissioner Coates, that's a hard answer because, as you know, as elected officials, they can run their office as they see fit within their statutes and being sworn in. I can say right now that all of the elected officials, besides the BOCC, but all of the elected officials are on board for this structure because it sets the basis. They want the pay policies. They want to be able to tell their employees, this is where you're at and this is why, and this will be the increase next year and here's why. For the future, if we have those pay practices in place, we'll be able to say, this is how we do it. We will have new elected officials come in. We have a new treasurer or a new clerk of district court or a new clerk, and we can say, this has been our practice, here's why, here's the structure, and explain it to them. Outside of that, I mean, truly, you are right. They can run their office as they see fit.
And they could adjust their pay scales as they saw fit, as long as it fits within the budget then.
That is correct. What I can also say, though, Commissioner Coates, is that you guys control the purse strings and you control their budget line items. So if you really look at their salary line items, how many FTEs are per each line item, if you really track those things, you can hold them to the fire with this and say, this is what we do with our employees. Here's our wage structure. Here's our compensation philosophy. And that's how you control it, is through their salary line item.
Yeah, I guess it's all of us to say is, this governance is a team sport, especially when it comes to the employees of the county. All the electeds have to work together and see what we can do with money that we have. So, thank you.
Peter?
Age before beauty.
Thank you. I just have a question. What do our employees think about this? Have you checked that out?
No, to be honest, I have not put out there to, or asked employees about their thoughts. I can say employees are worried about their paychecks going backwards. They know benefits are increasing, and we do have employees who leave who say, you never know if you're going to get a raise next year or not. I got to put food on the table.
Well, that's true. That's what's happened. And that's an issue that has to be dealt with.
You never know if you're going to get a raise next year. That's kind of part of being an employee in my mind. And again, public sector is different from private sector. But you also said a minute ago, you sit down with an employee and tell them, what they're going to get next year and why. And the answer to the why question is because you're living and a breathing human employed by the county next year, irrespective of performance and merit, irrespective of the county's ability to pay, and whatever the legislature does to our revenue sources. There's a danger here, I think, that, we're talking about two things. We're talking about bringing people up to market, and then we're talking about trying to create some philosophy for predictability and stability moving forward. And it's that 2% increase per year, regardless of all other factors other than you're a living human being employed by the county, that gets expensive. And I don't know what happens if market is in 5 years, shows us to be low or high. And conceivably, we could be that 2% over the 5 years, annually over 5 years, could put us either below or above market, and another adjustment. I don't know that it would be a downward adjustment, but I don't know. And it depends on what our peers are doing and what the national economy is doing and our local economy and all those other things. So I like the idea of predictability and stability and a lower turnover rate. But I don't like the fact that it's kind of it's creating an inflexible situation for those of us on this side of the table that do control the purse strings and do have the responsibility of deploying the public taxpayers' funds in an appropriate way. So I think there are some hard decisions here on what we do with this into the future. And I don't know if you can speak to that, but maybe I'd ask you to speak to what happens in 5 or 7 or 10 years if we do implement this and this 2%, we're still out of whack.
Commissioner Nicolason, I think I've got a lot of answers to that. One being that there are 11 steps, so you will max out at step 11. You will not continue to get an increase unless there's a cost of labor adjustment or a cost of living adjustment, a COLA. So you will max out at step 11. With that being said, and I want to be careful in making this next statement, but we need to get a basis. We need to get a structure in place. We need to get policies in place or practices in place. Moving forward, the BOCC doesn't have to do the 2% step increase the next year, the following year. You don't have to do the step increase. Now, if you don't do that step increase, we're going to be that further behind in the market the next year and the year after that. And that's what's happened. We've fallen behind. We went 6 years where employees didn't get any increases. And we were so far behind in 2022 that it cost us $1.4 million just to get us on the board. We were trying to get to midpoint and we barely got to the 10th to 20th percentile with employees, trying to work within that budget. So if you don't do the increases and you don't keep up with it, we'll just continue to fall that much further behind.
If I can jump in, Danielle, a little bit as well, is as we design this framework, right? As we design this pay structure and what you're adopting and looking at is one, a system that's designed to move with you. We don't want to just design you a pay structure that works for 2026, but is something that you can continue to grow into. But annually, there are decisions to be made about this pay structure. One, does the pay structure itself move based off of a cost of labor, cost of living adjustment? That's one vote that the commissioners will have on an annual basis. Does the structure itself move? The second is granting employees a step. Do we grant employees a step as well? As part of our recommendations, as you see in our final report, it's to continue efforts like these. And in order to maintain the structure moving forward, best practices are going to say that you should be adjusting the pay structure and salaries as needed to keep pace with market. But those are votes that occur on an annual basis for elected bodies. Does the pay structure move, and do we grant employees a step increase? That's a decision for you to make on that annual basis, but you have the structure that allows you to do that and make those decisions. What should it look like and what occurs? That's up for you to decide based off of your fiscal needs and your fiscal constraints.
Thank you. Dallas?
So just hearing this conversation, I would feel more comfortable to call this policy advisory, which then gives the commissioners latitude to deal with budgets and other matters that aren't contained within this particular model that's being presented. That's the way I've looked at it. It's advisory. From that standpoint, I think it's a good thing. I'm concerned. I kind of would have thought some of the employees would have been consulted about this, and maybe that isn't the right protocol. It's just how I personally feel. So I'm not criticizing anybody for not doing it. I just feel like if that's something I would do. I like talking to the employees and finding out how they feel about things. But my feeling for this is that it should be an advisory matter. I don't want to vote on anything that is controlling, because the money situation around here is we don't control it. The legislature controls it. And then they hand it down to us and we hand it down to you guys. That's the way it works. And so I don't want to have my feet in any concrete. Then we won't have any latitude if we have a rock star, or we have this, or we have that. Because if it hasn't been dreamed up now, it's going to be dreamed up by somebody at some point in time. But it's a good advisory platform, in my opinion.
As part of the advisory board, Madam Clerk, you want to say something?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. I think obviously the fiscal piece is the most concerning. Understood 100%. But on the flip side of that, we are trying to build, we keep saying, a structure and a foundation. That is exactly what we are trying to accomplish with this. Whatever option, however that path may go, we need a structure and a foundation. We don't have one, and I think it's irresponsible of us as an employer of this size not to have one. Also, as far as the policy and procedure document that we're working on, that's just what we have been referring to it as. We feel, and after speaking with the commissioners individually, that again, it's a structural document, and it could be an advisory document. There's certain options, there's latitude, there's leeway per some of the commissioners' comments that we had with speaking with them about, you know, whether or not to increase a person to the next step or hiring someone at a higher step, so on and so forth. So those are in the works in this document that we are preparing. So I think our biggest goal, other than obviously the compensation piece, is to create a monumental structure going forward that this county has never had. So, thank you.
Chairman, I have one more comment, and it's for Commissioner Laird. And just to further with the employees, you mentioned twice that you were wondering if we spoke with employees about this. Back in 2007, a salary study was done, and the commission decided not to adopt it. It was filed in a drawer and put away. Employees were upset about it. And I did not speak to employees directly about this. I do think employees know that we have been working on this. I've been coming to meetings, giving updates about the whole topic and the situation. But I did not speak to employees about it. I don't want to make empty promises, and I don't want to get hopes up either, because I know about the financial situation, and I know the hard situation that the BOC sees in with this. So that's the reasoning I did not go to employees about this.
Well, and the difference between you and I is that I'm elected by your employees. I'm elected by the people of this county. So I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to listen to the folks who work here. I'm going to listen to you. You know more about it than I do. I'm going to listen to Tracy a lot. But I like listening to the people who elect me. That's why I brought this up. They don't elect you. They do Tracy. And so I have a twofold issue there. The people who put me in here need to be listened to by me. And so I would like to hear myself from some employees, and sometimes they drop by my office. And I'm saying right now, any of you who want to drop by my office and talk to me, I'll make myself available because I want to know how you all feel.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Laird, with all due respect, yes, that's amazing. And I would hope that all employees would go to the commissioners and let them know their feelings. And I hope you do go speak to employees. I was just telling you why I did not go directly to them as an HR director.
This is no criticism of you at all. But it's a difference in our positions. We hire you, the people hire us. There's a hiring about to happen this year again. And so the people are going to be looking at that for the candidates that are out there and the guys who are on this commission. So I really have a high esteem for our people and their views. So I just want to make that known as part of my overall deal. But it isn't meant as a criticism against any of our employees, because I really think that our electeds and you are good are very fine people.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Laird, I too am hired, as you said, I'm hired by our employees along with the rest of Natrona County. And I think it's very evident our dedication to our employees with the time and the work that we have put into this 1.5-year project. As far as the policy and procedural document, whatever we're going to end up calling it, we keep referring to the five electeds. How are we going to ensure that, they're going to adhere to it, so on and so forth. But let me remind you that you folks are also part of the elected body. So I would in turn ask the same question to you. How would we ensure that you adhere to the policies if we put that procedural document in place?
Any further questions, comments? So, go ahead, Casey. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think an answer to that is that, so if the commission adopted this structure for itself and says, hey, this commission right now, as this body sits, we can't bind future commissions to anything. So for a period of time, it could be, you know, a fantastic structure. But when you build any empire, you always have the chance that they can crumble with the next regime. So it's just a caution. It's not a, this elected isn't going to do this or this elected isn't. It's the fact that this is just a real consideration on our part. It's a real consideration that the employees need to consider, and it's a consideration that the public really needs to understand when we're weighing this out. To say that, you know, while this is a fantastic option that we have in front of us, in order to put this in place and to really make this thing work for the county, it takes buy-in across the board, just like you said. And I don't think that anyone here, I could be maybe I'm speaking out of turn, doesn't see that, and I don't think any of the electeds don't see that. But there are real problems that can happen outside of these groups, so I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Coates, I 100% agree with your comments. I guess I'm speaking more towards the procedural or the document that we're working on, the policy or the pay policy procedural advisory document, however you want to deem it. I guess that's what I'm speaking to more. Again, I think we've taken your guys' comments into consideration, and we're going to meet with leadership and work with them as well on this policy as a starting point, you know, and obviously come to you again regarding it. But I feel in any situation, or this one in particular, when you were hiring, the perception is, let's just say, when you, the commissioners, are hiring their departments to fill their positions, which are greatly needed, I will not deny that, there's a perception that maybe market is not always followed, or that we can pay a salary to retain the best candidate. Where on our side of the coin, I feel, I'll just speak for myself, sometimes that I'm not afforded that when I'm trying to retain or fill positions. Thank you.
I completely understand that. I think that, you know, I guess one question about the study, not really a question to really go into, but just kind of a general question is, you know, some of these positions look at the person, and that escalates some of these costs. So, and it's, you know, it could be any of these hard to fill positions that, you know, county attorneys, or, you know, we talk about any other department head positions, and these things get competitive. And sometimes that causes wage escalations beyond what market would be, and it adjusts the market. And so, you know, you may see that here, you may have had that experience here with department heads or whatnot. I know other parts of the country do have that problem, and they throw these very attractive offers to people. And, you know, maybe we're dealing with that. Maybe that's something that the commission needs to consider when it's hiring more. So I appreciate that.
Any further questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas? Sheriff, did you have anything? Okay. Jim?
Chairman, Commissioners, and Dave, I spoke to you just briefly about this the other day, but one, all of your, at least your current electeds, are on board. We meet every month, and this has been a topic of discussion since it started. We have all been very involved with this. Every one of our departments recognize that structure needs to be put in place, above and beyond anything. The pay, any of that, the structure needs to be there. As far as the fiscal deal here and how this works out down the road, again, I kind of talked to you a little bit about this. The one number that seems to be overlooked, not looked at like it should be, like it is in private business, like it is in other government entities, especially the federal government, which I was fully involved with, is turnover percent. Our turnover percent is atrocious. And why is that? And what does that mean right now, and what does that mean in the future? It means that we are hiring people for other people, basically, among other things. So we, as a county as a whole, are sitting there spinning our wheels, 1 out of every 4 employees, basically, every year. The cost, when you put dollars to turnover percent, you're looking at anywhere, depending on the specialty of the position, 50 to 300% cost to replace that position. The 50 to 300% of the annual position cost is what you're going to spend to bring someone back on, get them up to snuff, and then just have them leave again. Every business, every government entity I've ever been involved with focuses on that one number, because the cost that you have right now pays for itself by reducing that. And how do you reduce that? You make yourself a preferred employer. You make yourself an employer where people don't come on and turn around, 2 months later and jump ship because Casper's offering more for the same kind of work, or whatever the case might be, whatever our competition is. And, there's just a bigger picture to this, in the long term than just what does it cost right now. And I guess my last comment is this, that we've kind of half heard it a couple of times here, but it's a standard in business that it is more expensive, it is harder to catch up than it is to keep pace. And we've seen that here over the years, constantly trying to catch up for years worth of stagnant movement. And the result of that is turnover. So I would ask that, honestly, you look at the big picture of this, and if it comes to funding, then initially we bite it somewhere. Whether it's equipment, projects, whatever the case might be, to get this county on board with its employees, and then that money will pay for itself over time once we do that.
Questions?
Oh,
You came up here and now you
right.
gotta face the board.
Let me say this. I agree with you on what you just said. Now, what I feel like I have in front of me is I have one of these boxes that's full of all these puzzle pieces. And you got to figure out how to put each one of them in there. My grandmother used to do it. I remember one of them took her 2 years to figure it out. And so when you say what you said, I accept it. I think it was I'm glad you said it. Then what I look at is it's the taxpayers' money. It's their money. And, we had people calling us, I don't know how many emails I got, that we shouldn't give any raises to anybody because they don't get any raises. And they're paying for other people's raises. So if you seated 200 people in here from the county, probably 95% of them would have voted down all the raises. So how can you guys do this? What are you thinking? Little old ladies crying to Dave North. How can they do this? So we get that. You don't get that down where you work. That your employees are, not saying that kind of thing to you. You're saying it's up to the commissioners. It gets loaded over on our plate, which is what we were elected to do. We're elected to handle this money. And so the whole thing is like a balancing act where you got to keep about 10 balls going in the air and hoping one of them doesn't go crashing down and cost you $1.5 million for 3 elevators. Or any number of things that could go wrong in one of these old buildings. We got a town that's fairly old. I'm getting old. Buildings that are old, and people that are retired and can't afford to fully pay the taxes on their house. And it's a possibility the government can end up owning their house if they can't pay their tax. So when you seat them in here, you hear an entirely different argument. Everybody in here that's an elected official has my complete and total respect. Public liked them. They got elected. People deserve raises. People deserve to stay on top of inflation. I've had family members get really low raises. And the boss says, well, we just didn't do that well this year. Then I have seen, boy, you should see the raise I got. Oil's $100 a barrel, more in some places. And so those people are very happy.
Commissioner Coates?
So just one quick statement on that. I think we have to be really careful about saying that our turnover is 100% related to our wages. I've talked to Sheriff Harlan in the back, and we've discussed matters of leadership and how it's a fragile component. And I personally have left high-paying jobs because it sucked. And it had nothing to do with the wage.
And
So-
you're absolutely right,
And I
Commissioner
just
Coates. It's
want-
it's the picture as a whole.
Yes.
It's the work environment. It's the wages. It's the whole deal of being, and I'll quotate this, a preferred employer. If people, wage or not, don't like where they're working, of course they're going to leave. But that just being part of it, and
As long as it's part of that picture, and we're understanding that that's part of the picture, I think that's the most important piece of it. So.
And I do want to say this. It's and we've had several discussions as electeds about this, and it's not even so much about the pay as it is the structure. It doesn't matter if you're in private industry or if you're in government. There's some sort of business model that gets adhered to. And whether you're in a year where you're making a lot of money or you're in a year where you're making less money, there's a business model that accounts for that. That's what we're saying basically does not exist and needs to happen irrespective of a wage increase or anything else. We need the structure to go forward that can be depended on in the future to hold everything together.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Coroner, thanks for coming up and sharing your insight. I think that it's something that resonates with a lot of us, and it's something that I recognize very well, how expensive it is and how much of a time suck it is on supervisors to retrain, or to not retrain, but to train new employees. If we do this, we're doing it having very little control over our revenues. And a substantial portion of our revenues are generated from residential property taxes. That's one of the shortcomings of not having a big industrial tax base. And so I hope that the employees of this county are some of our biggest advocates when it comes time to vote for legislators, for county commissioners, but also for property tax and other things that help us take care of our people, who then take care of the taxpayers. So it's a message that's going to come up through November, and I just hope that people recognize that this is, why you pay, or one of the reasons you pay for this stuff, is so that we can take better care of the people who take care of you. Thanks. More of a political statement than any of us wanted, but I think it's part of this whole discussion when it comes down to revenues and whether we take this step.
We're getting close to the end here. Everybody else got to put in their 2 cents worth of thought. So am I. I remember that bump. That was painful That was extremely painful for the county to go through, trying to figure that out, to bring people up. The sheriff and I, we came on, the sheriff's office was a training mill for city PD. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the amount of money that the county is spending on the academy and FTO training, just to go across the street was just absolutely ridiculous. How I see this wage study, and I do appreciate all the work and effort that everybody put into it. This is foundational guidance where you can start out. Which option, I'm not going to say my preference, but or even maybe a hybrid of the different options. But structure does mean a lot to an employee. Structure that they can see where they're going to be. Yeah, even in private business, things change. Vacation and sick time go to PTO. Wages get moved around depending upon just the market or the new business CEOs or CFOs that come into play. I believe that this foundation, a foundation of some sort, does need to be put in place, whether it's continued and followed by future boards, future electeds. That's future county problem, not a today problem. We can do the best we can do through either with the finances that we have, the revenues that are generated and that we have for our employees now. Will it make everybody happy? No, probably not. But I believe we should have some sort of structure, some sort of foundation. Because trust me, you don't want to go back through 2022. You don't want to go back to where the sheriff's office or the admins with Jill's department are basically just being trained to go somewhere else. And Casey is right. If it's miserable, people leave, even if they get paid a substantial amount. But bringing people on, keeping people, wage has a hell of a lot to do with it. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much for your time, ladies, and for attending this meeting. One of you didn't get to say much of anything, but thank you for being here. Anything else for us on that?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Try and keep us a couple of minutes ahead of schedule. But it was a good discussion. Next up would be talking about MOU between everybody and the Board of County Commissioners. Mike, how are you today? Standing. If you could run us through what you put together and go from there. Garrett, I need to talk to you after this, just for the next meeting portion. Sorry. No, you're good. Sir.
How are you guys?
Good.
So what you have in your packet is kind of three things, and it's kind of a committee effort or work group effort together around what I was talking about towards the beginning of the year, end of last year, which was the continuity of government plan and emergency action plan specific to county-sized government. Of course, we have the big county-sized plan, which is kind of how all the different parts and pieces work together. But this stuff is more tailored to how do we, as the government in Natrona County, keep going and at what level during, specific time frames. Initially, the initial actions that we have to take, as well as those continuity actions to get back to what we're tasked with doing. So we've made some good ground on that, but what you have in front of you is specific to what we want to do to gather input direct from our department heads, elected officials, those that are doing the work. We can't, as a work group or an emergency management, go through and make too many assumptions. That's going to be dangerous and not a very actionable plan. So we kind of lean out or lay out first in MOUs is what the term we were going to use. It could really be anything, but I think MOU is a pretty appropriate document for that, where we say, here's, what we're trying to accomplish. Here's what we're going to do as a work group, alongside, what we need from you. And then as a department head, elected official, or however that falls out in the leadership side of the house for that individual program, like, do you want to participate? And if you do, this is what it looks like. And then immediately following that would be two pieces, kind of survey-esque type documents. The very first one would be kind of laying out what is it that you do, and what do you need to do to continue that working, say, for 72 hours? What are the key functions, and some details on that. Then the second part is who is your kind of the leadership succession plan for your particular program or department, and how do you want to see that laid out in planning? And those are the three documents and what they aim to do.
Any questions?
Michael, this is really well put together. I appreciate it. I looked at it. I think it's a fantastic resource for us to get working on. So I appreciate the work you put into it.
Group effort.
Anybody else? What's the next steps?
Next steps, I would really appreciate it if you guys would send it out to the department heads. I could send the email. I think I have that list, but I do think coming from you guys and that shows support from the commission would be a really good help to us on the work group side, getting the best data and possible, and best level of participation possible.
How much participation have you had so far?
Decent amount. We sent out some preliminary surveys just trying to learn more. We had okay. We have our core work group, which is great participation there, but then a couple others that contributed some data as well, and that was enough initial preliminary stuff to know the questions we have to ask in what you guys have in front of you. That was kind of the ultimate goals, to gauge what we needed to find out more about and who was going to participate. And I would love to see every department fill out this information and provide this information back, because that's just going to make the project tailored that and more actionable, or potentially actionable.
So I was thinking about it a little bit more after we've discussed it and whatnot. For those people that you want us to send it to, and that's awesome, right? But can you put together a little bit more guidance document, kind of examples and whatever that we could add to it, so that everybody is on the same page of what we're specifically after?
Yeah.
I think it'd be beneficial, and it'd help them be able to produce that quality document versus just, here you go, fill it out.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
I can, and I'm more than happy to sit down with any one department or program that wants to discuss it, or go over it more in detail, or work with them.
And that would be very beneficial as well. But I think just to kick it off, to give them that guidance and your phone number, that would be great.
They give you 2 cell phones, so it means you got to answer one of them.
No. Yes, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the 2026 roadmap that you have in the MOU, and we're going to be at Q3 here pretty quick.
Mhm.
Q2 workshop identifying essential functions. How do we help you and help our departments and our other elected officials, stay true to that roadmap, that schedule?
I think keeping the forward traction, if that's something I'll prioritize, putting together the additional documents or examples and things like that, prioritizing getting them out to the department heads. The other thing is that roadmap, it is self-imposed to a large degree. This isn't, any grant funded or anything like that. So I would be okay making sure that we take the time to get the good information, and not pushing too fast, too hard to go, sticking to the self-imposed schedule, as long as we're getting good participation and good information, from the individual departments.
It seems like our chairman could sign a letter saying this needs to be fully implemented by December 31st, and to work with you to, I don't know what the first step is, review and get with you and identify essential functions by, I don't know what's realistic at this point, July 31st. That's 2 months. For at least that first contact to have been made and people to start having that conversation with you if they're having problems filling it out or knowing what an essential function is. I think you put together something that's very self-explanatory in a lot of ways. But if we just say, get with Michael when you can, or even if we say have it done by 12/31, I see a lot of folks not prioritizing this and putting it off to the last minute, and then frankly, I don't think it'll be well done. So, just some thoughts on kind of execution and scheduling.
And I'd be okay with whatever decision you guys kind of came up with as a collective leadership on that. I would prioritize it.
Is everybody good with this MOU and the format, what we're actually after?
So I want to work this project on your guys' behalf, and I think it's in our purview through emergency management as well. But ultimately, you guys are kind of the instigator of the agreement, and we're going to cooperate within that effort. So if you guys collectively think that there's a deadline or something that you would like to put into play, then I'll prioritize that.
Why don't we get together talk at some point
Okay.
this week, maybe, if we can,
I'll be available.
in my spare time.
In your spare time.
So after 6, or no, 7. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, if you can put that together, some sort of thing, and then we can just kind of go over it. And then put together a email and a statement, just kick it out to everybody.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Anything else we should know? Anything going on in the county? Anything you want to bring up to us since we got you here? We don't see you.
You can tell us about the emergencies. We good?
We're good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, we're overdue now. Ashley.
I'll try to be quick. So we got the East End Road easements back from Paul. There's just a couple little tiny things that we had. Some of the descriptions were slightly wrong, and they were actually a little bit wrong on the description we had. So Felicia is fixing those. She was working on that today. So we will have those sent out, mailed and emailed this week, by the end of this week. So the property owners will get those this week. We are almost finished with that major records request that we had. We finished going over those 30,000 emails. Tamara finished the last ones yesterday, had a little celebration. Because for the last week, it's been all hands on deck on that one. And so the only thing we have left on that is we are going through our records in legal, because we do have some records pertaining to this records request that we will be inputting into that records request and getting it out. Hopefully by the end of this week. It is due Monday.
And we are charging them per the schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to get with.
Tell me who made the record.
It was a lawyer out of Pittsburgh.
What?
A lawyer, a law firm out of Pittsburgh. I would have to go into here to see what, I don't remember the exact name.
It's probably something to do with Sabrina, I'm sure.
We can blame it on Sabrina. But so that's pretty much just about done. We'll do calculating our hours and everything that we've been putting into it. And getting out that basically that cost, because it was a pretty extensive one for us. Additionally, I wanted to give you guys an update. So Title 25s are, we did a total of 80, for May. So we had 80 Title 25s for the month of May. And my staff, we are keeping track now of how many we do per month, and then we'll also give you guys a yearly update and tell you guys how many we've done per year. I think that will help us too, as we kind of start talking about how we're going to start being able to fund these when that comes due. So, additionally, we're working on getting all the next fiscal contracts on the June 16th agenda. I have a nice little stack on my desk right now. I have a couple more that came in today that I got to review real quick, so I can get those out to you guys for that next agenda, so we're not falling behind on any of those contracts. Additionally, Tamara right now is working on drafting 3 of those contracts because we need to draft those. So she's working on those at the moment. Oh, Commissioner Laird, I just received a note. It is Hardy, Springer, and Mattern law firm was that records request.
How much will that cost?
I gotta go through and see how many hours we've put into it and do those calculations, but I can get you those numbers
So
here.
this is one of the first major ones like this, or have we received?
This is the biggest one we've had.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So after we do that, we'll send them saying, hey, this is how much it's.
So
It is.
with these larger ones and whatnot, is it using that as an experience or guide, past guide? Take a look at our schedule and see if we potentially may want to adjust it to meet for these large requests.
Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know what the Wyoming legislature would want to do with these types of records requests, but it's got to be a statewide problem. And I'd like to see, at the very least, a statutory change that allows more flexibility on the part of the time within which you have to respond. And I know that for good cause, you can essentially get more time, but I think we can make that more robust in the statutes, and maybe we can visit about finding one of our local legislators to run that bill or something to I guess reduce the impact on local governments. And you know, all the time that you guys are spending is pretty amazing, and unfortunately it takes away from the other stuff that that's maybe more important to our county citizens.
It's a matter of capacity.
I mean, I will say it's definitely put a hinder because now we're playing catch up. Now that that's kind of almost about done, I've reached out to several departments because I hadn't been able to follow up on some of their stuff, saying, hey, I will follow up with you guys next week. I'm sorry, you know, we've just been behind. That's just how it is. These contracts, you know, end of the year contracts, ideally I would have had some of them done for today's meeting, but I just could not get those done because I had, you know, these tight deadlines. But I would be happy to sit down and talk about records requests. I have some familiarity from, you know, my past employment too with records requests. I know that this is just the way society's going. We get a lot more requests, and I know we're gonna have a lot for elections too, and that's gonna be rough. And then the only other thing we have is Felicia finished our responses for the second Johnson case. She got those drafted for me. I reviewed those, so we'll be getting those filed. I had to schedule a little bit because that's due Friday, so.
Any questions for Kevin? Nope. In And since we're all back now, do I have a motion to move into exec for HR and, or for personnel and, what else? Legal?
So moved.
Moving to second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in exec. We will be back shortly, guys. Gert?
Things that you'd like to
Ready? All righty, we're out of exec. And we did discuss a couple things. So action was taken for Williams Porter Day and Neville to represent county actions for potential legal litigation. Action was taken to keep the old health department generator for county emergency uses. And action that we have reviewed and approved the form of the contract for the CNFR. So there you go. I would take, did you have some? Oh, okay. You did? What's up?
I have had a request for the list of who will be attending on the Thursday night for CNFR. So I have Dave North and Peter Nicolason. Anybody else that I need to, cause they're wanting the list to make sure it's right and everything.
Oh, the CNFR is?
Yeah.
Okay, that night. Yeah, so Thursday is government night. They like to recognize local government officials, city and county. So it'd be really nice to have the whole board out there on Thursday. So I'd request that everybody make it if at all possible. I'll be there.
Next Thursday or next
Okay. So, then there was an email that I sent out, I think it was like last Friday. Community Action Partnership, they have a low income applicant. Oh, I just closed it. That they want, that they're making the recommendation to appoint, and then Devin Fulton. So they've went through the process, their elections, all that kind of stuff. Their recommendation now is to bring it to the commissioners. The commissioners elected position is still, nobody has applied for it, but the low income and the community positions that they get to make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. Are there any, do you guys want to interview, or are you okay with just moving forward with those appointments on the 16th? We've only received 2 and there's only 2 positions. Well, we've only received 1 application for each position. I should word it that way.
Applicant for each one.
Yeah, for each sector.
What's the board's feelings, thoughts?
I move that we accept those applicants and move them forward.
Perfect.
Moving second, so those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Gotta even vote on it.
So we will, we'll go ahead, I'll get that on the agenda for the 16th. And then just a reminder, the 11th is my last day before, I go on vacation. So I'll have my computer, but if you need me, I'll be on my cell. But if you can have all that, anything to me ahead of time.
Please don't leave her alone during vacation. Yeah, guys.
How did she get a vacation?
She's talking to you.
Not talking to me. I try to leave her alone.
Long enough to get a vacation?
Oh, and then some. Boss has got to go away some point. Okay, anything else, Michelle? Okay. So, with that, move to the consent agenda. Use your mic.
Consent. I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Move to second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And consent agendas moved along. We have any contracts, agreements, resolutions that we need to discuss? Michelle? Alrighty. So we'll move on to public hearings. Oh, gotta deal with Sabrina again. Okay, whatever. Alrighty, I now declare public hearing open for consideration of ZC 26-02. Apologize for slaughter names. Krieger Reed, a request made by David Krieger and Michelle Reed for zone change of 15, or Michael Reed for a zone change of 1525-0 Poison Spider Road, and it's 350 acres, and 15050 Poison Spider Road, and it's 35 acres, totaling 385 acres. Properties are both located within ranch, agriculture, and mining, otherwise known as RAM zoning district. With a proposed change to urban agriculture UA zoning district, the applicants plan to use land for agricultural and residential uses. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, rules of Natrona County Commission, and other applicable laws. Why are you so far away?
I don't know. That's where Michelle put me.
Yeah, you can push it forward.
Bites just a little, but it's all good. Thank you. That's too close now. No.
Don't tip it
just
over.
quit. Can we have a report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Made you laugh, so my job is done for the night. As you mentioned, this is for a zone change from ranching, agriculture, and mining to urban ag. Ranching, agriculture, and mining currently has a minimum lot size of 35 acres. Urban ag has a minimum lot size of 10 acres. The property is located off of Poison Spider, west of town. The adjacent land uses are all RAM. The water source for both properties are Poison Spider water, and they have septic systems. And there are certain criteria that were in your packet for approval. For planning considerations, Natrona County Road and Bridge reviewed and found no issues with the zone change once access to properties was confirmed. There was a question on the agricultural part of this property, which is most of the property in most of the screen. There is access to this property off of Poison Spider. One of the homes where Mr. Krieger lives is kind of to the right, little square that is accessed off Mystic Moon, and then Mr. Reed's property is further to the right off of Poison Spider with those Poison Spider address. County Fire reviewed and had no issues with the zone change. GIS and mapping also reviewed and had no issues. Staff sent notice to 10 surrounding neighbors, and staff did receive one written comment opposed to the zone change, which was in your packet, included in that. Staff does find the application to be complete in compliance with zoning code, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a due pass forwarded to you all. And should you vote to approve the zone change request, the staff has no additional conditions for this project. The applicants are here to answer any questions and would like to address you all just to present why they have chosen to do this.
I have a question. And maybe, I don't know if you have the, if you know the answer to this question. Will this zoning change cause a raise in the tax assessments on the surrounding properties?
No, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Laird, it does not affect property values. Zone changes do not.
Thank you. The chairman points something out. It's sometimes when property gets sold, the assessor uses that to increase the values of surrounding property. Are you familiar with that possibility?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Laird, that's an assessor office question. We don't have anything to do with property values, although we work with them. And we also know that, we've had people come in our office and say, oh, my property taxes went up. You have to talk to the assessors about that. That's not anything that comes through our office.
Yeah, I think I understand how it works. I just wondered if you had an opinion on it. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Does this come as a pre-response?
So, Mr. Chairman, this is 385 acres, and we don't have a definition of spot zone. It's just, if there's like a little zone. So there are some, yeah, so there's east, so would be further towards town, And approximately 3 or 4 miles from here, there is a spot zone of 20 acres, which is suburban residential. They're like 2 to 5 acre lots. There's a couple of those in this area. Like I said, they're about 20 acres. So that I would say is a spot zone. 385 acres, I wouldn't say that is, but like I said, we don't have an acreage amount. So
Sabrina, did you, so if I read this right, and if I'm looking at the GIS website correctly, the proposed zoning district of urban ag wouldn't be adjacent to any other urban ag, is that correct?
correct.
Did you consider some of the other property owners immediately to the east that would have created some sort of contiguity so that it wouldn't just be kind of an isolated urban ag parcel?
So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Nicolason, we actually, Mr. Krieger came in to us asking for this. First off, we back up a little bit. Mr. Reed actually came in asking for this, but he has the 35 acres, and that we did think was a zone, or was a spot zone. Then Mr. Krieger came in, and when we found out where it was, we said, hey, your neighbor, Mr. Reed, was wanting to do this. Can you guys go in together and do this? And so that's why they wanted to do this together. And then, as I mentioned, 10 different property owners were provided with letters, so they are aware, and they could have come in as well. We did not get any additional requests.
With respect to those other property owners, are some of them in between this proposed rezoned parcel and that other urban ag to the east? So if they would have signed up for this, they would have made it contiguous. My question is, are any of those property owners between Mr. Reed's and Mr. Krieger's and that urban ag?
They could have been, I'd have to look at the addresses specifically, because when we do our notifications, we kind of put a dot and then we see what it catches. So if we put a dot in the middle of a hayfield and it catches 2 people, we're going to move it over and kind of, so we want to notify the neighbors, but we have a 1,000-foot radius as our requirement per our regulation. But we've notified 2 miles before because it caught 2 more people. So it could have been. I do know that Mr. Krieger did go and get a petition signed by neighbors, so they're aware as well. They could have, it could be those to the east, but I have to look at addresses and who we sent it to.
Sabrina, looking at the list of the property owners or the other that have signed that, it appears that a lot of the property owners to the south and to the north all agreed to go along with this. Is that correct?
They agreed to sign an acknowledgement that they are aware that it was happening. I can speculate that they would not sign it if they didn't agree with it, but I don't know either. Mr. Krieger can maybe answer that. He's the one that got
Okay.
those signatures.
Minimum lot size is what?
10 acres.
So that'll reach your guys'.
Yes, so if you look at kind of our pink line, the square, I guess, in the middle, that's Mr. Krieger's home. He accesses it off Mystic Moon. It's approximately 11 acres. So this makes sense that he's, and I don't want to speak for him, but he's looking into retirement and selling this off. But he wants to keep his home and stay in his home, and that's what would make it feasible.
Discussion, questions, Dave?
No, sorry.
And then the applicant is here. And my father's birthday is today, so I'm going to join him for dinner after this, and I will tell him. subway.
My name's Dave Krieger. I live at 15250 West Poison Spider. Only one correction. I do access mine off Zero Road to get into my yard. And she is correct. I am getting close to the age of retirement, and I've been doing all of it myself, and I'm 66 years old, and you know how it is. And so anyway, I first came in, I wanted to just do my place, and that was considered a spot zone, and they don't do that, so we did the whole place to hopefully get the zoning done and passed. I did contact about 10 people, I guess, and the only people that did have any interest or any complaint really was Clayton Williams right next to me to the north. And it was kind of what he said in that letter, that he was worried about 10-acre lots and whatnot. And the one reason I'm selling is it's an opportunity for me to sell it to somebody that truly just wants to keep farming just like I have. In fact, I may do it for him for a year or two, or may not, but he has no interest in subdividing the place. The other thing is the water line running down Mystic Moon is only a 2-inch, and there's already 3 people on that line. So there's no room for expansion there anyway. And then the line in front of my house is the 4-inch line. And there's no way that anybody could ever subdivide out there unless they upgrade the whole system to supply it. The access to, somebody said they were concerned about utilizing Mystic Moon. There's no place to put a house off Mystic Moon. It's all hayfield, and that one little triangle right by the highway is just gumbo, and it's a water pasture for the cows when we had cows in there. His plan is, I believe, he's going to put a house right there where the center point of the center pivot. And then he'll extend a water line. The water line now ends right there at the corner of Mystic Moon and Zero Road, about where that blue dot is, just beyond that ways. So, and if if this was a developer, I probably wouldn't have sold it, because that's the last thing I wanted to see it split up in 10-acre parcels or even 20 acres. But there's not enough water out there to do that anyway. So I don't really think it's a concern of any kind. But anyway, that's my, I guess, reasoning is I'm just getting ready to retire, and I had an opportunity. I've been talking to this guy for a couple of years, and we finally arrived at a price, and so I'm here to try and get it approved so I can keep my house and 10 acres and continue living there. None? Oh, well, that was easy enough, hopefully.
Do you have any questions for me? I'm Mike Reed. I'm just the adjacent neighbor to Dave to the east there. And, I petitioned before, before Dave did this, but I have 2 residents on my property, and I got 2 accesses coming off of it, and water's already there. I have no intentions on subdividing either. I just, in the future, I'm the same age as Dave. If I ever have to give up the hayfield, I would, but I'd have another resident to go to. So, and my little triangle right there is about the same. I got about 10 in that corner if I ever decide to do that, which there's no plans in the near future to do that. Flexibility. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion for approval of ZC 26-02 with all staff recommendations and approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion.
The question with spot zoning, I agree with our developer that 385 acres is not considered a spot zone. That's a big enough area, and it is close. There is UA that's just right across the street from that, not too far from that area, and I don't have any problem at all with that. And I understand Mr. Krieger's concerns about wanting to stay where he is and not necessarily have to keep farming for the rest of his life. So,
Any further discussion?
So I can appreciate the depth of this. You know, Mr. Krieger, you've worked this land for a long time, and you want to retire, and you want to basically live where you've established your home, and I can absolutely appreciate that. I think this is the exact type of model for a rezone that I can get behind, and I think that being able to help your neighbor out in this with this rezone to avoid a spot zone, I think this is just a fantastic use of the rezone process, so I can absolutely appreciate it.
I'm a firm believer that in Wyoming especially, people ought to be able to do with their land what they want to do with it, as long as it's not a burden on others. And I don't see any burden. I did read the letter, but it's been explained to me that that shouldn't be a problem. And I hope it isn't a problem. And congratulations, Mr. Krieger and Mrs. Krieger. Call for the question.
Did you? That question's been called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it.
That's all, folks.
You'll be back, I'm sure.
Thanks. All right, public comment. Yeah, I'm looking at you. You stood up first, huh? Too late? Oh, you'll get used to him. So, identify yourself.
Cameron Savage, 2005 Amherst Avenue, Casper. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As I've submitted in the IT position budget for the last 9 years, I know what you guys are going through. From the opposite side of the table, of course, being that I'm not part of the governing body, and I know how tough those decisions are, and especially when it comes to things like salaries. Commissioner Laird brought up that revenue is not under the control of the commission, which is true. However, costs are. And through the budgetary process, you could reduce budget on some items. I don't know what. Haven't had a chance to look at every item on the budget in order to ensure that the employees are being taken care of. I believe the coroner mentioned cutting equipment costs and other things, but really critical infrastructure should come first, then employees, then everything else, in my opinion. And I would really like to see that going forward and take that into consideration when addressing these issues for the employees. Another thought that I had was that, you know, the Baker Tilly study mentioned market rates, and that's all well and good, but what hits the people's pocketbook is inflation. And I didn't see that in the study. I did hear them mention it during the meeting. But if you looked at a cost of living adjustment, maybe every 18 months, index to inflation, with the inflation and the taxes coming in from sales tax and property tax also rising, if you don't treat that as new money, but just treat it as inflation, you should be able to maintain that.
believe that would allow us to keep well-trained, experienced talent. And thank you for your time and your commitment to this county.
I do have a comment I want to say so that it isn't cloudy in anybody's mind, but our biggest assets are our employees. They're what really run the county,
Yep, I 100%.
and I respect all of them.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I suppose we gotta entertain you.
Well,
Oh, the privilege of entertaining
he
you.
came.
sorry.
It's the other way around, isn't it? On it. So Tracy Lamont, 9855 Crimson Dawn Road on Casper Mountain. But first of all, I want to apologize to you guys for overwhelming you with tags on Facebook. So I appreciate all of you being involved on that page, and it is pretty informational. Some of it gets a little clouded sometimes, but not always on them. So we started out because we had no way of communicating up there, is why I started that way back, and it had to do with the biathlon range and so forth, and not having a public hearing. And then, we went through all of that. But the bottom line is we got a lot of people's attention, and shame on the city for leaving you guys drug out here for as long as they have on that outstanding lease. And I personally, we need a long-term lease, and it's up to them, and the ball's in their court now, and I think we've shaken the ball enough to get them to move on it. And we need to be prepared. The slash pile is an integral part of the community up there, for frontline defense, for fire prevention and beetle control. And as near as I can tell, it ended up there in 1982. Sam Weaver was real integrally involved with Bob Adams, who was running the Parks Department at that point in time. And they put it together, and frankly, I'm guessing the city knew nothing about that slash pile for years, unless somebody just happened to stumble across it. So when it didn't get burned this spring, and the weather has a lot to do with that on it. There wasn't any snow. I've never seen it like that up there this year. It's melted off 3 times on it, but there wasn't a permit in hand, and there should have been. I wanted to point that out. I've tried not to burn the bridge with my friends in the fire department up there on it, but I did call the DEQ here locally in the office building over here by NCHS in the state office building. And there is an air quality guy by the name of Kurt. I neglected to get his last name, but he will issue a permit, and it will be good till the end of the year on it. So that'll catch the fall season. So when the first storm does hit, they got it in hand, and they can get the troops mobilized and get over there and get it burned on it, because there's no way, unless we get an El Nino in here and a monsoonal rain, and that could happen, and we could just go ahead and be prepared to get it burned. But evidently that they can write that here out of this office over here, and maybe make it good for a year on it. So that way it's pre-prepared. And they got caught with their drawers down. I just off the record, it's kind of hard to do when you're on YouTube here, but yes, they should have had that permit in hand, the Mountain Fire Department. And I think what they can do to broaden the horizon, they're operating with real minimal people up there now, and they could draw upon a mutual aid response and use it for a practice drill and get the county involved if we can salvage the fire department out here on it, and get the city involved and bring up the necessary troops and equipment with water in it, because water's the limitation up there. We know that problem too on them. So that's just some thought, but we don't want to see that go away because it's such a community asset. So that brings you, what shook out in all of this was the outstanding lease. And that's where I was saying, shame on the county, I mean the city again. That's sat out there, and I did get a chance to visit with Eric Nelson after the press conference this afternoon and said, Eric, we've got to get this thing resolved. There's no doubt about it. On it, and operating from a month at a time doesn't cut it. I mean, that gives a great deal of uncertainty to the Natrona County Parks Department, and they need to be the ones that are in the parks business on the mountain, period. On it, that's been a tradition on it, and it makes sense. And you guys have a hell of a lot invested up there in that new building, especially on it, and then with the other infrastructure of Ponderosa Park and the archery range, so forth. So you're not going to go away out of the parks business on it, and you've got the service building already established, and that brings the fire department into it as well. They're laying out there on the same level of uncertainty right now. I don't know what their lease arrangement is, if it's a month at a time too, but we need to get it back on a long-term basis, and it needs to include in the lease with the county, which whether it's the county or the parks department, doesn't matter, it's one of the same, right? On them. So, and we need to include the slash pile property, and I think we need to take it one step further and end up with a lease on the city property that Mickey McMurray traded. That's north of the county property where the gun range is. So I think we need to take it that one step further, and we need to stay in the parks business on the mountain. And I think there was a coup of people that are unnamed, but they wanted to see the county out of the parks business on the mountain. And they wanted to see the heads roll on it because they didn't think the county was doing a good job. And that's nonsense. It's been destructive as hell on it. We need to be back in the county needs to be in the parks business on it, and the recreational people need to support that. And we've got a good track record as far as the winter recreational aspect of it. The county boys have done a great job. The parks department guys have on the grooming side of it. So if you look at the downhill side of this, if the city were to take it back over, I mean, they've got to buy the grooming equipment. They've got to have a service building on it. And, it's just, it makes no sense because we got some egos involved on it. And I hate to bring that up, but it's there on it. And we need to put that to bed and get everybody back and cooperative. And there needs to be I think a recreational council between the Nordic and the biathlon and the snowmobiling, and if we could take the lead as the commissioners to bring them together and maybe have a yearly conference or semi-annual between the city and the councilmen too, so we're all on the same page. Does that make any sense on it? So I just wanted to table my thoughts because I've been such a proverbial pain in the ass, and I got the, Ray Pacheco came over and shook my hand, and Kyle Gamroth jumped in, and I tagged both of those because I didn't have the rest of the tags for the other city councilmen, and I always tag you guys just to keep you apprised. If you want to read it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too on them. But if it's something important, that's the only thing I put out there to you. Otherwise, I'd drive you crazy with some of the garbage that shows up on that site on them. So I really appreciate Dave and Casey have jumped in and tried to referee on it. And, Dave has the history of why that thing has been sitting out there till 2022, but we need to work towards, and Eric mentioned the fact that there's been so much turnover in the legal department here, and which is true fact on them. But if you guys could get that thing dug out as soon as you can and start working on it, it needs to be prioritized, and it'll make life a hell of a lot easier for little Mike back here on it, Michael Brown on it. And then I worked jointly with an unnamed source of the board here on it. We jumped on the bandwagon to diffuse the fact that the Parks Department did not know that the city fire department had been ordered to go up there and close it, and also got the commissioners off the hook too, and that's killed a great deal of negativity, and I think that's why the room isn't full here probably tonight with everybody bitching and moaning. So, and they're realistic too, that you know, until it gets wet, it is what it is on them. So, and the city's been over backwards to allow it to be able to haul it out to the landfill too, but maybe we ought to be looking at some other alternatives, maybe an alternative site possibly on it, or the other one is to bring up the city's tub grinder and grind that up and get it hauled out of there, because it is an accident just waiting to happen. So thanks for all the extra time, but I owed it to you to come down here after racing some cow on it, and on, you know, on that page, or trying to facilitate it positively on it. And for the most part, it's gone that direction. But the consensus is don't let the pile disappear on it, or the ability to have access to the pile disappear. Does that make any sense, Peter? On them. So on it, if we can get that conveyed back to the we'll see how the press release goes, but if we get it conveyed back to the core user groups, there's a lot of skiers involved up there, a whole lot on it, and a lot of snowmobilers still kicking around. And so, and then the picnicker areas on it, you've got those pretty well ready to go, don't you, Michael? They're opened up, all the campgrounds on the mountain. That's good. So thanks for the time, and you got any questions?
It's been a long time since we heard from you in this room. That's why you got extra time.
That's good. I miss you guys. I get a kick out of coming down, sitting in the front row, and keeping everybody on guessing the frame on what's he got it on his mind tonight. But I obviously am tracking well. Been on my medication and haven't played the Grinch lately, and that's been a good feeling too. So we've got a lot of history together on him. So Dallas, thanks for jumping back in.
I think Casey wants to make a comment real quick.
Go ahead, Casey.
So Tracy, the Castro
Can you speak up closer to your mic?
Yep. So Tracy, the Castromont landowners page, I originally got on there just to watch my dad cause hate and discontent to stir you up, because he told me it was just fun to watch. It's actually been a pretty good source of news for me, so I appreciate what you guys are doing with that. So ongoing lease agreements, that's in progress. There's some sections of it that are more recreation focused, like we discussed today in the press conference. And then there's the slash pile area, which we'll see where that lands as far as leasing goes.
We need to push to just keep it the same way that it was
Sure.
on it, and that way it's smooth and it's seamless, and it makes life easier for Mike accessing with groomer just to go right on into that other city property that Mickey ended up with. I mean, it's just over the fence.
So the nice thing that kind of came out of all this is that there's always some collaboration going on between the governments. We work well together. Not always on every topic, but in general, we work pretty well together. And this resulted in some good conversations with the fire professionals to come up with a lasting solution to this. So it's not just a one-off and then maybe wait for snow every year.
Right.
So a lot of options were kind of thrown out, but there's a lot of research that's going into it. Casper Fire and their chiefs and building this out, and I would expect something to come from the city that's pretty robust.
That's good. That's really good. So I appreciate you jumping in and getting them rattled up over there on them. So that made sense on them. So I think that's all I got to say. No more questions? On them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate you coming down. Any further public comment? Maybe not. Mike? No? Are you sure? Alrighty, well. If that's the case, no further public comment. Commissioner's comment, Dave.
Tracy pretty much covered a lot of it, but with the slash pile and everything that went on up on Casper Mountain since last week, took a lot of us by surprise. The city made that decision. That was not anything to do with the parks or anybody else, so that's 100% not part of this board. It wasn't part of the parks decision or anything else, and hopefully we can get everything taken care of and move forward and get the leases and everything else put back together up there and get everything moving forward.
Oh, Peter. Really? Can we hope for the same with Dallas?
Be sure and get your tickets to the CNFR. It's a lot of fun, and remember we got the big fair and rodeo coming up, the parade and everything, and so they've got the Indian races coming back, and boy, were those a lot of fun last year. So you all have a good evening.
Casey.
So, I think we covered the slash pile bit. I think the big message there is that the city and the county are working on the solution there. And I think that at the outside of this, this prompting might have been a good thing. So, rule of unintended consequences, sometimes they're good. So we'll get that taken care of. Hopefully this board can be the board that just wraps that up and it can be done. Kind of secondarily, I had the opportunity to speak with the CEO of Summit, kind of discussing with them their opening of some of their ER and some of the other options. He made mention that he was excited to be able to show Natrona County and Casper some of the good things they can do, and so I'm wishing them luck and hoping to see that they show us and the rest of the community that they can be just as beneficial and just as supportive of our healthcare system. So thank you.
Alrighty. Dallas took my CNFR thing. See how he is. He's not even liaison. What the hell, man? No, seriously. If you have the opportunity, go get your tickets. CNFR is coming. Things are happening really quickly with it. It's going to be an amazing year. A lot of good kids. Been watching some rodeos around the country on the rodeo channel and whatnot, and there's some good contenders out there. So it's going to be a really good year. I would highly recommend coming out to it. So me abstaining from the vote the last week or a while ago for the electeds raise or change seems to have put a lot of consternation out there for whatever reason. It was because I was concerned about a particular office within the county and how it was functioning, and I had fully intended to run for that office if a person can step up. They did, and so I didn't run for it. I 110% endorse Heather for the treasurer's office. I think she'll do a fantastic job, and That's the reason, Dallas.
Well, that's nice of you to tell us that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we're adjourned.